So, what happens when you throw a Spice Girl, her film producer ex-husband, and one of the biggest tabloids on the planet into a legal ring? You get more than just celebrity drama, that's for sure. You actually get a masterclass in the law of libel and how courts figure out what a news story is really trying to say. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so our story kicks off, like so many of these do, with a single, explosive headline, one that ignited a pretty serious legal firestorm. And here it is. In June 2024, The Sun drops this article online with the headline, Mel's Pain. It claimed that Mel's B's ex, Stephen Belafonte, was about to be questioned by police over harassment allegations. Now, for Belafonte, this wasn't just reporting. He saw it as a full-blown assault on his character, and he immediately sued for defamation. Now, inside the article, it got even more intense. It talked about claims he'd intimidated his ex-wife when he was in the UK. It mentioned a restraining order from the US, and it quoted sources saying she was, quote, living in fear. And that right there sets up the million-dollar question for the court. Was the Sun just reporting on allegations, or was it basically pointing the finger and declaring him guilty? And this is where things get really fascinating, legally speaking. Because in any libel case, the very first job of the court is to nail down the single, natural, and ordinary meaning of an article. And trust me, that is way trickier than it sounds. So how on earth does a judge do that? How do they get inside the head of an average person scrolling through the news to figure out the real sting of an article? Well, they don't just take a wild guess. They have a very specific, hypothetical person they turn to for guidance. Let me introduce you to the ordinary, reasonable reader. This is the court's gold standard. This isn't some super cynical lawyer looking for loopholes, but they're not a naive gossip hound either. This imaginary person reads an article, gets the general vibe, and might even do what the law calls loose thinking. It's through their eyes that a judge deciphers what's really being said. Now, to help figure out what that ordinary, reasonable reader would actually understand, the law has this brilliant little toolkit. It's called the chase levels, and it's basically a way of measuring the intensity of an accusation. And here's why that's so important. Think about it. Saying someone is being investigated for something is a world away from saying they did it, right? The chase levels give the court a clear framework to tell the difference, and that distinction can make or break a defamation case. So let's break it down real quick. Level 1, that's the knockout punch. It's an article basically saying, yup, this person is guilty. That's the toughest one for a newspaper to defend. Level 2 is a step down. It suggests, there are some pretty good reasons to be suspicious here. And level 3 is the mildest, just saying, you know what, this is something worth looking into. It's like a sliding scale of blame. Okay, so we've got our legal toolkit, right? The ordinary reader and the chase levels. Now let's jump back into that courtroom and see exactly how the judge used these tools on the Sun's article. So in one corner, you had Belafonte's team. They were arguing that the article was a clear chase level 1, that it flat out said he was guilty of harassment, period. But in the other corner, the Sun's lawyers fired back saying, no, we were just reporting that there were grounds to be suspicious or to investigate, putting it at the much lower levels 2 and 3. And the judge's reasoning here was just brilliant. She brought it right back to reality. She said, let's be honest, nobody's reading this like it's a legal textbook. It's celebrity gossip. The ordinary reader is going to glance at it, absorb the headline and the general feeling impressionistically, and then just keep scrolling. Context is everything. So what was the final call? Well, check this out. It wasn't a clean sweep. The judge actually split her decision. As you can see here, when it came to the past allegations in the US, she sided with Belafonte, ruling it was a statement of guilt. That's a chase level 1, a huge win for him. But for the newer claims in the UK, she said the article only raised suspicion, a chase level 2. So you might be thinking, okay, a split decision. So what? Well, this case actually matters a lot. It's got some really big implications for the media and for all of us who read the news. Let's zoom out a bit. One of the key ideas here is something called the repetition rule, and it's super simple but incredibly powerful. In libel law, you can't just play hot potato with an accusation. A newspaper can't get off the hook by saying, hey, we were just repeating what our sources told us. If you print it, you own it. So what are the big takeaways from all this? First, media outlets are on the hook for what they report, even if they're quoting a source. Second, context is king. The headline, the pictures, the overall tone, it all combines to create the legal meaning. Third, courts are getting really smart about that classic tabloid trick of implying guilt without saying it outright. And finally, for us, it's a huge reminder to be critical readers and to notice how a story is being framed. This whole case is a perfect lesson in how to really read the news. It shows us that the meaning isn't just in the black and white text, but in the entire impression an article creates. So the next time you're scrolling, just pause for a second, think like a judge, and ask yourself, what is this story really trying to tell me?